Okay. Recording is in progress. Life is in progress. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nהיה b'dvaro. Chaim v'bracha. For life and to blessings.
Cool. Right.
Good, all good.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So day in, day out, we're blessed to be together to learn Torah. What is the blessing in Torah? Well, God's wisdom becomes our wisdom. Wow. We get to see the world the way God sees the world. After all, he gave us the teachings. He gave him that which is of him, his will, his wisdom, that we can be privy to him, to know him. Of course, it's inspiring, I hope. Inspiring. That inspiration is, 1%. Perspiration is 99%. Inspiring that it brings us to change. As change comes from within, that we change. I wasn't telling it. At joke number 39, you can laugh now. Right? That we change through the teaching. They inspire. So there's so much. We gain insight into ourselves, the makeup of our being. Understand what it means, our higher self, the godly part, the lower self, the animal part. We understand the purpose of life. We can better deal with our relationships as a result of learning Torah. There is so much to gain day in, day out as we gather together, not just for Tanya, but previously we learned Chumash and Rashi to understand the truth of Torah teachings, the truth of God, the deep insight, the nuanced understanding. Of course, learning Rambam thereafter allows us to know the law, what God wants from us. We're learning how the laws of tshuva, penitence. So there's so much that we gain through the study. Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We're in chapter 35. It's a new beginning that we start at the beginning of this chapter to understand the purpose of the Beinoni. We're getting a little closer. What's the purpose of his creation? After all, he doesn't transform. Beinoni doesn't transform themselves like the righteous do, that tzaddik does. Still have an inner world of turmoil in the animal soul, in the heart. Just the Beinoni doesn't allow it to have self-expression. So it doesn't gain momentum, but it's there. So then what's the purpose if you're not transforming? So we're getting a little closer. Tomorrow we'll nail it. And now we're going to give the structure to appreciate it. So we're learning Torah right now. What's happening right now at this moment when we learn Torah? Not merely what do we gain from learning Torah, God's wisdom, which is amazing. Knowing God's will and being able to fulfill his will, that's stupendous. But what's happening in the moment of learning? Well, what's involved in learning right now is our divine soul and our two powers, two garments of our soul. Thought, because if your thoughts are elsewhere right now, you might be hearing the words, but if you're thinking of something else, then you're not learning Torah, right? That's not learning. Learning Torah means your thoughts are the thoughts of Torah. So whatever, whether I'm expressing it or you read it from the Torah and you're thinking it. And also what's involved in Torah study, the other element is speech, right? Speaking the words as I am speaking it. Those are the two, the inner garment, the most inner garment, which is thought and speech. So what is happening in this moment is that our godly soul, together with our thoughts and speech, if we're speaking, are absorbed within the light of the Ein Sof. We merge with God in a perfect unity in this moment. And that's the idea of the Shechinah resting upon us, on our head. Remember? What should a wise person do? His eyes in the head, meaning the interests are in the head. The interest is to make sure the Shechinah is overhead. So we're learning Torah. The Shechinah is embracing us. What is an embracing of us? Our godly soul, our thoughts, and the speech if we speak it, right? It's just amazing. But there's something missing in this equation. What's that? Right? And in the absorption of the light of God, what's missing?
Mitzvah.
No, the absorption in the light of God. That's through the mitzvah. What's missing? Our body. Right? Our body's not really engaged in Torah study. Right? I mean, not in the real sense of what a body is, right? Because there's no action taking place here. All there is thoughts and perhaps speech, but not action. But in order that the Shekhinah should envelop not just my divine soul and not just my thoughts and speech, but my body and my animal soul too. In other words, the limbs of my body, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, embraces. I need to do an action-oriented mitzvah. A practical mitzvah that's performed by the body itself. So, for example, to put on tefillin, the power to put on tefillin it's a body action. That body is getting vitality from the animal soul. Where's the godly soul in this? It's the motivator, but the godly soul can't put on tefillin. The godly soul is too spiritual. The body is too physical, too coarse. It doesn't power the body. It inspires the animal soul. Hey, you give the energy, the power to do the action of this, putting on the tefillin. That power is not coming from the godly soul, coming from the animal soul. The animal soul is in between. It's spiritual, but it's coarse. It's an animal soul, not a, right? So it has an affinity to the body, right? They're both self-directed in the sense that they're both, inclined to see their separateness, right? Perceive their desires, their needs. Not the godly soul. The godly soul just wants to be bound up in one with the divine. Doesn't perceive its own needs. So it motivates, though, to fulfill the need of God to the animal soul. So now it engages in doing the act of putting on tefillin or giving charity and the like, right? What does that mean? It means that through that action, the very action itself, again, motivated by the divine soul, but done or energized through the animal soul, and the body actually, the action is done with the body of the body. So now what we've done is introduce the Shechinah, the divine presence of God, that encompasses not just my divine soul and my thoughts and my speech, but my power of action, my animal soul, and my body. It's encompassing all of that in the divine, in the Shekhinah, divine presence of God. Wow, that's powerful. That's what's happening right now. Well, actually, that's all what's happening right now in our study of Torah. Study of Torah, as we explained previously, right? But in the action of putting on your tefillin, men, or men and ladies, to give charity, the act, something I'm going to speak more about, which is phenomenal. So the wise person has their eyes in their head, always concerned to create the light of God that's above, that light of God should encompass them entirely. And that will be done through the fuel that we bring to the conduit of the wick, which is the body. And that conduit is good deeds, mitzvahs, physical, material actions. Now, what's important over here, there's a value in just the action itself that creates that light. Now, of course, the more your heart and soul is involved in it, the more that light will be all embracing, that light of God. But even if you just do the act with a minimal awareness that, God wants this, you don't understand the depth of meaning in tefillin, the seat of the mind, against the heart, the four parchments, what they represent, the skin of an animal that you make, the leather boxes, and so on and so forth. All of that you don't understand and you don't appreciate, which just means your mind and your heart, your understanding and your heart may not be fully engaged, but your action, your body, your animal soul are engaged. The light of God you're connected with is in the act itself. Just very unique. In other words, the act is not for the sake of the spiritual intent. The act has a value in and of itself. of course, the more spiritual and understanding you have, and more spiritual connection and intent that you have, makes it even greater. But the point is that even without that, um, the flame, the Shechinah, the divine presence of God, incorporates, encompasses the person, the light overhead. Again, to what degree and how deep and how profound, that's, depending on how much we're engaged in the mitzvah. But even minimally, the act itself, just phenomenal. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on this?
Can I ask,
Go ahead.
you might be off base, the oil, what does it represent?
Good deeds. We've been saying that. We just said that. We just said that. Mitzvahs, mitzvahs,
That's the oil,
mitzvahs.
the oil, the wick, the flame.
Wick is the body. Flame is the divine presence.
And also, learning comes before mitzvah,
What do you mean?
but we just, our thought, and our speech inspires the mitzvah.
That was not the point. Thought and speech was in your Torah study.
Inspiring the soul to learn,
Your divine soul inspires you to do the mitzvah.
to learn.
But no, it doesn't have to be through learning. It could be, it doesn't have to be. Just divine soul inspires you to go and put on tefillin now. Go give charity. It doesn't have to be because you learned. It could be. It doesn't. And that's not the focus over here. The focus over here, we're coming away with this, I hope, is that in the act of doing God's mitzvah, the Shechinah rests upon the person. Now, the more focused, engaged, aware, spiritually connected you are to the mitzvah, intellectually, emotionally, thoughtful, in your thoughts, then more deep and profound is the connection. But in the act itself, even if you don't have that spiritual connection, that awareness of mind, deep feeling in the heart, you don't have that. Do you create the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God overhead? Absolutely. It's not as all-encompassing, but did it take in your body that did the act of the mitzvah? Yes. Did it take in your animal soul that provided the energy to do the mitzvah, the act of the mitzvah? Absolutely so. Did your power of action of your soul, did it incorporate that? Absolutely so. Did it incorporate your heart, that you had a deep love? Maybe not. Okay, but that's just the heart. But the action of the person is incorporated. I shouldn't just, say that it's merely the heart, meaning to say there's different dimensions of the individual, right? Different dimensions of the individual. And therefore, the more we're engaged in the mitzvah, the more we're encompassed by the divine light. Jeff, Lisa, let's see. Okay, got some questions here. Does the godly soul and the animal soul need to work together when doing a mitzvah? For sure. Again, because the godly soul can only be a motivator. The godly soul is too spiritual, too removed from the coarseness of a physical body, right? Unless you've been so refined and you're righteous, but not for us. So the godly soul inspires the animal soul, that the animal soul, right? When I'm putting on my tefillin, the power to do that is coming from the energy for that is coming from the animal soul that is doing the mitzvah. So the godly soul inspired it to do a mitzvah. A lot of times we don't do it with great fervor because why? Because the animal soul is kind of like, I'm there for the ride. I'm not really into it. Right?
The divine soul needs.
Because the divine soul did not inspire enough the animal soul, but it inspired it enough. Say, okay, I won't eat right now. Okay, I won't go on social media to see what's going on in Israel right now. I'm going to do for Israel rather than to hear what's going on in Israel. I got to learn. Oh, okay. So your animal soul's kind of for the ride together, together with the body, um, and
It's synopsis.
so yeah, the animal soul's there, giving the vitality, so we do the mitzvah. Jeff, is the Beinoni doing a mitzvah the same as the tzaddik? No, because the Beinoni still the vitality of the Beinoni for its body is the animal soul, not the godly soul. Godly soul is just the inspiration, it's an inspiration. Okay. Deborah, Idea Chabad fundraiser podcast is past Sunday, a mitzvah. Beautiful. Thank you, Deborah. Okay, you'll do one for us too. All right, beautiful. Does the president of Israel have a soul? Uh-huh. Some just foolishness. Foolishness we don't need. Yes, inspiring people to give charity is a mitzvah.
Shechinah.
Okay. Tom, Shechinah is divine presence, yes. Tom, a reminder, put 2 question marks before you ask a question. That way we know. John, might the movement of the lips and the vocal cords be considered physical and thereby under the control of the animal soul? Good question, John. Now, for sure, the animal soul could give vitality to your thought process or your communication. But it seems here that that's not a real bodily function. Thought for sure not, right? Thought is abstract in the mind, right? Conscious awareness. So that for sure not. And even speech, even though sometimes we consider it like a small deed. But yeah, it's a good question you're asking. Um, I guess because we're talking about Torah study, so it's not much of the physical reality of the person that's involved in it. Even speech, I'm talking, you're not talking, you're listening, right? You're thinking. By listening, you're thinking the words of Torah in your mind. So that's for sure not a physical act. Yeah, mitzvah is end in itself? What if it leads to secondary what it is? Yes, it does lead to secondary, but it is. So, John, very good question. Thank you. See anything else here? Oops. What is the best way to become closer to the divine soul? Do a mitzvah. That's what we're talking about, right? Doing a mitzvah, absolutely. The building of the Mishkan, Jeff asks, was that the animal soul doing a mitzvah? Well, again, the action involved in taking, today we learn in Chumash Rashi, right, about the tapestry had to be 28 by 4 cubits, each one, 10 of them, they had to be sewn together, right, to fit together, to be attached together. So that's a physical work. That physical work is an attachment because it's a mitzvah.
That's what you study it.
Yeah. Huh?
But both.
Yeah. Yeah. So best way to become closer to divine soul, to a mitzvah. Yehuda. Is it true that the root word mitzvah is tzavsa? Yeah, which means to draw near, to connect. Means to connect, yes. So more mitzvahs we do that. So yeah, thank you, Yehuda. The word mitzvah has a deeper meaning than merely a command. The deeper meaning is a connection. So here we're explaining what that connection is, right? Connection to God what's connecting. So in the act, and this is what's beautiful over here, in the physical act of doing the mitzvah, not only my godly soul is connected to God, which it naturally is, right? But my animal soul, and not just my animal soul, my physical limb that was engaged in that mitzvah. I want to make sure that we get this, we hop this, because it's counterintuitive. Intuitive is the act is in order to have the intent. In other words, the act of putting on tefillin is that I should feel more attached to God and feel God's presence in my life. I put it on my head, I put it against my heart, right? That my mind and my heart should be more attuned to the divine. Is that true? Absolutely. But that's not the point we made here at all. At all. I never even said those words, right? We will deal with that, actually, believe it or not, in chapter 38, 39, and 40 about intent. But that's not what our focus here is. Our focus over here is the act itself, and that the Shechinah, the divine presence of God, is in this action. Right? We didn't speak about wonderful mindfulness, intent in the act that we're doing. Never mentioned it. I mean, I mentioned it, but that's not, I mentioned it as a side point. The point is in the act itself. That's very unique. That's not the way we understand the human condition. Human condition is I want to get out of this physical, limited human condition in order to connect to the divine. And here we're saying, no, 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 no. You're bringing the light of God down here. It's on my body and my animal soul, the limbs of my body, in the act of doing the mitzvah. Whoa. Counterintuitive. It doesn't exist anywhere else, this notion. except in Jewish teachings. And even in Jewish teachings, you wouldn't have a clarity of this notion without Tanya. You definitely wouldn't have an understanding of it. We're giving an understanding of it, as opposed to, right. Hope that's clearer now. Bill, there's even a delay in the engagement. Do you see yourself as the oneness in and in the mitzvah? I know, Bill, I'm not clear on what you're saying or asking. I'm not exactly clear, but I hope what I'm explaining to you is clear to you. I hope so. That's what's important. So, as we say it, just do it. Or, as we say, just Jew it. Just do the Jewish thing. For Jewish men, put on your tefillin. Jewish women, light Shabbos candles. If you're not Jewish, just give charity. Just do act of loving kindness. Just pray to God, and so on and so forth. Just a few examples. Beautiful. All right, folks, Rambam's coming up. Laws of Tshuva, come and join us. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure